It started like any other Saturday. You know the kind, lazy morning light slipping through the blinds, the low hum of the coffee maker sputtering to life, and the faint creak of old floorboards as you pad around the house half-dressed and half-awake. I just finished rinsing out my mug when I heard the familiar sound of her slippers brushing across the tile. My wife, Sarah, humming something tuneless under her breath. She always did that when she was in a good mood. The smell of fresh coffee and laundry detergent filled the kitchen, and for a moment, everything felt safe, comfortable. We'd been married 12 years. Not perfect years, but solid ones. We had our routines, our little inside jokes, the stuff that makes up the glue of a long marriage. And yeah, sometimes we annoyed each other. She'd leave wet towels on the bed, and I'd forget to close the cabinet doors. But we were a team, or so I thought. She made pancakes that morning. Not the box kind, the real ones from scratch, with a little bit of cinnamon like she knew I liked. I remember thinking it was sweet of her, and maybe a little out of character. But I didn't question it. Not then. The funny thing is, when life is about to blindside you, it never gives you a heads up. You don't get a warning bell or a flashing sign. Just a tiny crack in the routine. A detail that doesn't fit. And for me, that detail was a receipt. It wasn't even supposed to be there. I dropped my phone, and it slid halfway under the couch, so I crouched down to get it, and there it was, wedged between the floor and the leg of the end table. A little square of paper. Nothing dramatic. Not at first glance. Just one of those boutique-style receipts you get when you buy something overpriced and lacy. I almost crumpled it and tossed it in the trash. Almost. But I didn't. I read it. One item. Women's underwear. Lingerie. Not a style I'd ever seen before, not on Sarah. Not on anyone, really. And the kicker? The purchase was from 2 weeks ago. She hadn't worn anything new around me in months. That was it. That was the moment. The exact second something shifted in my chest. Like a string pulled too tight, finally snapping. It wasn't just a receipt anymore. It was a question mark. A ghost. A punch to the gut disguised as thermal paper. I remember sitting back on my heels, staring at it for way too long, like the damn thing was going to explain itself. But it didn't. It just sat there. And so did I. I didn't confront her. Not right away. I just slid the receipt into my back pocket like I was hiding a loaded weapon. It felt stupid to even think about it that way. It was a scrap of paper, for crying out loud. But it weighed heavy. Heavier than anything that size had a right to. I spent the rest of that day pretending to be normal. Mowed the lawn. Washed the car. Smiled when she asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I even sat through one of those mindless rom-coms she loves, trying not to spiral every time the couple on screen shared a knowing look or laughed at some inside joke. Meanwhile, my brain was on a loop, replaying the past few weeks, trying to remember when things started to feel off. She had been busier lately, more distant, but not in a cold way, just a little too cheerful sometimes, overcompensating. Or maybe I was imagining it. That's what I told myself, that I was being paranoid. But that receipt, it didn't belong, not just because it was new, but because it was intimate. That kind of purchase, that kind of thing, it's either meant for someone you love or someone you're trying to impress. And it sure as hell wasn't me. Later that night, while she was asleep next to me, I lay there staring at the ceiling, her breathing slow and even, peaceful, like someone who didn't have a care in the world. I kept asking myself, what if there's an explanation? Maybe it was a gift for a friend. Maybe it was a surprise for me she just hadn't worked up the nerve to show yet. But deep down, I knew better. There's a certain kind of silence that settles in when you start to suspect someone you love is lying to you. It's not loud. It doesn't scream. It whispers. Constantly. Like background static that never shuts off. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept rolling over, trying not to look at her, trying not to breathe in the scent of her shampoo, because every bit of her suddenly felt like a stranger. That receipt was small. Insignificant, if you looked at it the way she probably wanted me to. But for me, it was the point of no return. I wasn't in love with a mystery. I was in love with my wife. And now I had to find out which one was real. The next few days were hell. Not the loud kind. Not the kind with slammed doors and screaming matches. No, it was the quiet kind of hell. The kind where everything looks normal on the outside, but inside your head, it's a war zone. Every smile from her felt staged. Every word felt rehearsed. I couldn't tell if she was being genuine or if she was just that good at lying. I started noticing things I'd never paid attention to before. Her phone, always face down. She'd take it with her to the bathroom, even during dinner. That used to be my habit. Now I watched her do it, and my stomach twisted. She started dressing nicer too. Nothing over the top, just more effort. A little more makeup. New perfume I didn't recognize. When I asked about it, she said it was a gift from a coworker. I nodded like I believed her. I didn't. But I also didn't want to accuse her without proof. That's the thing. When you love someone, you don't want to be right about their betrayal. You want to be wrong. You want to be paranoid. You want to be the idiot who misunderstood something harmless. Because the alternative? That they're actually lying to your face? That they're sneaking around behind your back? That'll wreck you. And the worst part? I started doubting myself. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe the receipt was old. Maybe she bought it and never wore it. Maybe it was for her. Maybe she was planning a surprise. Maybe I was just looking for patterns where there weren't any. But then, little things started stacking up. A charge on our joint card for a hotel downtown. She said it was for a girls' spa day. A dinner reservation under her name for two. She said it was a mistake. An Uber ride she never mentioned, picked up from an address I didn't recognize. None of it made sense. But it all felt connected. And here's the part that still eats at me. I wanted to trust her. I really did. I wanted to shrug it off and chalk it up to coincidence. But my gut kept tapping me on the shoulder, whispering, something's wrong. So I did what any half-sane husband would do in that moment. I started watching her. Quietly. Carefully. Like a stranger in my own house. It's a strange feeling, sneaking around your own house. You start to notice how loud the floorboards creak. How every drawer has a certain squeak. You start rehearsing how to put things back exactly as you found them. Because if you slip, even once, the whole house of cards falls. The first thing I checked was her laptop. She kept it in the kitchen, said it was just for recipes and emails. It wasn't password protected. Maybe she thought I'd never bother. I waited until she was out one afternoon, said she was getting groceries. I knew she'd be gone at least an hour. I opened the laptop and started looking. Emails. Clean. Too clean. No clutter, no junk. Just a tidy little inbox like something out of a commercial. But when I dug deeper, I found that the trash folder had recently been emptied. Like, really recently. Okay, so she was hiding something. Then I checked the browser history. That's where things got interesting. There were searches for hotels in our town. Not just any hotels, but boutique ones. The kind couples book for weekend escapes. I found a couple of tabs open to lingerie stores too. I told myself, maybe she's planning a surprise. Maybe this is all leading to some anniversary gift I just haven't seen yet. But our anniversary was 6 months ago. And then I found it. A folder on the desktop labeled Photos. Nothing weird about that, until I opened it. Inside were just a few pictures. Not revealing, not even inappropriate. Just selfies of her. Hair done up. Lips glossy. Smiling in a way she hadn't smiled around me in months. And they were all taken in our guest room. A room we hadn't used in years. The bed was made differently. Pillows stacked in a way she never arranged them for us. That's when I knew. I closed the laptop, carefully, just like I found it. Sat back and stared at the wall. My heartbeat was steady, but my thoughts were sprinting in every direction. The guest room. She was using it. For him. Whoever he was. I didn't know his name. Not yet. But someone had been here. In my house. Sleeping in my guest bed. Leaving behind a trail she thought I'd never follow. That night, I checked the room. Top to bottom. And behind the nightstand, I found it. A receipt for takeout. 2 entrees. Wine, dessert. All dated from the week before. I hadn't eaten takeout in a month. I took a picture of it. Then I slipped it back, exactly where it was. Let her think she was still ahead. Because I'd made up my mind. I wasn't just suspicious anymore. I was hunting. Once you commit to the idea that someone you love is lying to you, your brain rewires itself. You stop seeing things as they are and start seeing what they might really be. Every look, every word, every click of a phone screen becomes evidence. I kept it cool, polite. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings. I asked about her day. I even complimented her cooking once, just to keep up appearances. But behind the mask, I was watching everything. I started keeping a notebook. Just basic stuff. When she left. When she came back. What she said she was doing. And then I'd check Uber rides, credit card charges, timestamps. Nothing too invasive at first. Just enough to see if the stories matched. They didn't. One day, she said she was going to her friend Megan's for lunch. I checked Megan's Instagram. She was in Florida. Posted a photo of a beach cocktail with the caption, "Finally some sun," while my wife was supposedly sipping iced tea at her house. Strike one. Another night, she said she had a work happy hour. That one almost convinced me she came home a little tipsy, smelling like gin and lime. But the receipt in her coat pocket? Steakhouse. Table for two. No mention of a bar tab, no appetizers, no group. Just two dinners. Strike two. But the final clue, the one that burned itself into my brain, was something I never expected. I was doing laundry. She always handled her own, but that day she'd left a small basket in the corner of the bedroom, and I figured I'd be helpful. Mindless task. Fold, sort, move on. Except tucked between a pair of jeans and a sweater was something I hadn't seen before. Boxer briefs. Men's. Not mine. I held them up like I just picked up a dead mouse. Brand new. Not folded, not washed. Still had the sizing sticker on the waistband. I don't know what hit harder, the fact that she had his underwear in our room, or that she was so careless about it. Like she didn't even bother hiding it anymore. That was it. That was the confirmation I needed. Not just suspicion. Not just a hunch. This was real. And it wasn't some stranger from work or a guy she met online. It was someone comfortable enough to leave their clothes in my house. I stared at those boxers for a long time. Then I folded them. Carefully. Like I was cataloging a crime scene. Because now it wasn't just about knowing. It was about proving it. And deep down, I had a sinking feeling I already knew who it might be. It hit me while I was brushing my teeth. Just one of those random brain sparks that comes out of nowhere and sets your whole body on edge. The underwear. Same brand my brother wears. I know, it sounds ridiculous. But trust me, it wasn't a guess. I remembered from a fishing trip last summer. He packed light, ended up borrowing a hoodie from me, and I noticed the waistband when he was changing. Dumb detail to remember, right? But in that moment, standing in the bathroom with toothpaste foam in my mouth and my mind racing, it suddenly didn't feel so dumb. I told myself I was overthinking it, that it couldn't be him, that I was being paranoid, emotional, angry, all the things you tell yourself when your gut's trying to say something you don't want to hear. But the more I thought about it, the more little memories started clicking into place. He'd been around more lately. Just dropping by, he'd say. Randomly showing up with beer or borrowing tools. Once or twice I even caught him chatting with her in the kitchen when I got home. Nothing suspicious on the surface, but now, looking back, it felt too casual. Too familiar. And there was this one time, maybe 2 months ago, I had a late shift and came home earlier than planned. He was just leaving the house. Said he was helping her with a leaky faucet. At the time, I thanked him. Now, I wanted to punch through the mirror just thinking about it. I didn't say anything. Not to him, not to her. But something was turning in my stomach, that slow, cold twist that happens when betrayal stops being a theory and starts feeling like a fact. So I tested the waters. The next time I saw my brother, I brought it up. Casually. Said something like, "Hey, you've been stopping by the house a lot lately." He gave me this easy laugh, you know, the kind you give when you're trying not to seem defensive. Said something about being bored, missing family. I nodded, smiled, offered him a beer. But inside, I was watching every twitch in his face, every pause in his words. And there it was, something in his eyes. Something just a little too careful. That was the moment I knew. It wasn't just someone. It was him. And suddenly, I wasn't just dealing with a cheating spouse. I was staring down betrayal from both sides. Once the idea took root, my wife and my brother, I couldn't unsee it. Their voices in the kitchen when they thought I wasn't listening. The way she'd laugh just a little too hard at his jokes. The way he'd glance at her when he thought no one was watching. It was all there, hiding in plain sight. And I missed it. That hurt more than I'd like to admit. So I did what I had to. I stopped reacting. Stopped flinching. I smiled when I needed to, nodded at the right times, played dumb so convincingly it started to scare me. Because now, I wasn't just a husband looking for answers. I was a man building a case. The first thing I did was buy a small camera. One of those discreet ones that looks like a phone charger. I plugged it into an outlet in the hallway, aimed perfectly at the guest room door. I picked up a second one too, hid it behind a stack of books in the living room. Nothing illegal, all in my house, all mine. I wasn't breaking any laws. Just recording what already belonged to me. Then I synced her phone to mine. Took me a few tries and a few deep breaths, but eventually, I mirrored her messages and location. Nothing too invasive. I just wanted to see where she was going and who she was talking to, and more importantly, if it ever lined up with him. And wouldn't you know it, it did. Twice in 1 week, she said she was running errands, and guess who pinged in the same neighborhood at the exact same time? Yep, my brother. Once? Coincidence. Twice? Pattern. I didn't confront them. I didn't even feel rage. I felt cold. Focused. Like I'd stepped out of the emotional chaos and into something clear. I was a man on a mission now. I wasn't interested in blowing up. I wanted the truth. Plain and raw. And I wasn't going to get it from asking questions. I was going to catch it. So I started working late. Or at least, that's what I told them. I left the house at odd times. Last-minute calls. Errands. Helping a buddy move. Each time, I parked a few blocks away and waited. Just me, my car, and a quiet engine. I watched the house like it was a crime scene. Because in a way, it was. Nothing happened those first couple of times. I started thinking maybe I was crazy. Maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe this was all in my head, and I was slowly becoming the guy who wears tinfoil hats and trusts no one. But then, one evening, her phone pinged home, and his did too. And I wasn't home. It was a Thursday night. Cool outside. The kind of night that smells like rain even if it never comes. I had left an hour earlier, made sure to slam the front door loud enough for her to hear. Told her I'd be gone late helping a coworker move, someone who doesn't even exist. I drove 3 blocks down, cut the engine, and waited. I had her location open on my phone. Home. No movement. Then I checked my brother's. Also home, until about 20 minutes later. Suddenly, his little blue dot was on the move. And it wasn't heading to a store, or to his house. It was heading to mine. I watched the icon inch toward my street, and my stomach dropped. I wanted to believe there was a perfectly good reason. Maybe he forgot something. Maybe he was checking on her for me. Maybe pigs fly and I'm an idiot. But I already knew what I'd see. I got out of the car quietly, walking slow, sticking to shadows like I'd done this 100 times. My hands were sweating even though it was barely 50 degrees out. The air had this weird stillness to it, like the world was holding its breath with me. When I got to the corner of our backyard, I crouched behind the old oak tree that had been there since we moved in. I had a clear view of the guest room window. The blinds were half closed, just enough to give them privacy from the street, not from me. The light flicked on, and there they were. I didn't see much, just enough. Her silhouette. His. Moving around. Close. Familiar. That was all I needed. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just watched. You'd think a moment like that would wreck you. That you'd fall apart, curse the sky, break something just to feel like you're still alive. But I didn't feel anything. Not yet. Just a kind of numb that sat deep in my bones. Eventually I stood, turned around, and walked back to my car. That was the night I stopped being her husband. And he stopped being my brother. The next morning, I made coffee like nothing happened. She came into the kitchen wearing the same robe she always wore, hair a little messy, humming under her breath like she'd just had the best sleep of her life. I looked at her and thought, you really think I don't know? And honestly, that was fine. Let her think I was clueless a little longer. It made things easier. I sat there at the table sipping coffee while she scrolled through her phone, probably texting him right in front of me. My brother. My own blood. The same guy I used to sneak beers with behind Dad's shed. The same guy I helped move 3 times because he never stayed in one place for long. They weren't just having an affair. They were comfortable with it. That's what stung most. They weren't scared. They weren't guilty. They were relaxed, like they'd gotten away with it already. That made this next part even easier. After she left for work, or wherever she was pretending to go, I went back to the guest room. Took out the memory card from the wall charger camera. Plugged it into my laptop. Fast-forwarded through 2 nights of nothing, a lot of empty rooms and flickering shadows. Then I saw them. Clear as day. Her opening the door. Him stepping in. No panic, no hesitation. They hugged like it was just another day. Like this wasn't a violation of everything we ever had. It was all there. The body language. The familiarity. The quiet way they shut the door like they were in their house. I copied the footage, backed it up to a hidden drive, then uploaded it to a secure folder online, just in case. I wasn't going to do anything with it yet. Not until I had more. Not until the picture was complete. Next, I checked her phone location history. She'd been at his place twice last week. And mine while I was at work. I screenshotted it all. Saved her text backups too, just in case there was something buried in the old messages. I started a folder on my desktop, K+T, evidence. Cold, clean, organized. Every time I added a file, I felt a little more detached. Like I was filing away someone else's life, not my own. But deep down, I knew what I was really doing. I was preparing for the day I'd walk away. And make sure they never forgot it. Funny how betrayal pulls old memories out of the attic. Stuff you hadn't thought about in years suddenly comes rushing back. And not because you want it to, because your brain starts digging for clues. For cracks you missed. For signs you ignored. I found myself thinking back to her wedding day. The way she looked walking down the aisle. Not dramatic or over the top, just her. Simple dress, no veil, hair pinned back the way she liked it. I remember her hand shaking when I slipped the ring on, and how she whispered that she never thought someone like me would want her forever. And I meant it when I said forever. I really did. Back then, it felt like we were untouchable. We didn't have money, but we had this rhythm. Jokes in the car, late-night snacks, dumb arguments over what to watch that ended in laughter. I used to wake up before her just to watch her sleep. Not in a creepy way. I just liked the quiet of it. Like the world couldn't touch us. But life does what it always does. It piles up. Work stress, bills, the slow grind of routine. You stop doing the little things. You get tired. Conversations become scheduling logistics. Sex becomes a checkbox. And before you know it, you're living with a roommate you used to adore. I don't even know when the shift happened. Maybe it was subtle. The first time she picked her phone over me at dinner. The first time she went to bed without saying goodnight. Or maybe I changed too. Got too comfortable. Stopped noticing the things she stopped doing. But I never stopped loving her. That's the part that keeps punching me in the chest. I didn't leave. I didn't cheat. I didn't even flirt. I stayed, even when it got boring. Even when I felt like maybe we were just coasting. And she? She picked my brother. Not a stranger. Not a coworker. Not a fling. My brother. The guy who used to crash on our couch when he couldn't make rent. The guy who borrowed my tools, my car, my time. The guy I trusted. So yeah, I started wondering if I missed something from the beginning. If maybe she never loved me the way I loved her. If maybe I was just convenient. And that thought? It's the one that keeps me up at night. I didn't expect to hear it. You spend weeks gathering clues, playing it cool, watching from the sidelines like a ghost in your own life. And then one day, the universe just hands it to you. Wrapped in static and bad timing. I was in the garage, messing with the breaker panel. We'd been having flickering lights in the hallway, probably unrelated, but it gave me a reason to be down there. The circuit breaker hums just loud enough to drown out most things. But there's a vent up top that connects directly to the kitchen. That's when I heard voices. Hers. And his. He must have come in through the back, bold as hell, like it was his house now. I couldn't hear every word, but I heard enough. That tone. That half-laugh she only used when she felt flirty. The kind of voice you use when you've already crossed a line and don't care who knows it. Then I heard him say something that locked me in place. Something about last time, and how close we came to getting caught. That was it. I froze. Not out of shock. I'd already crossed that bridge. But because now I had sound. Words. Confirmation. It wasn't a theory anymore. It wasn't just footage, or phone data, or a sick feeling in my gut. It was real. They were together. In my house. While I was gone. And they were laughing about it. I felt something flicker in my chest. Not rage, not grief. Something quieter. Like a light inside me dimmed a little more. Like a part of me finally gave up trying to believe there was still something salvageable. I didn't barge in. I didn't stomp upstairs and confront them. I just stood there in that dim garage, surrounded by the smell of old wood and motor oil, and I let it sink in. They had no idea I was listening, and I had no intention of letting them know. Not yet. After that night in the garage, something inside me shifted. I stopped flinching at the lies. Stopped second-guessing myself. I didn't feel numb anymore. I felt ready. Like I'd been holding my breath for weeks, and now I finally knew how the air tasted. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to give them a dramatic scene they could twist into their own little sob story. No yelling, no tears. I wasn't going to hand them a reaction they could use against me later. What I wanted, no, needed, was control. So I started laying the groundwork. First, I made copies of everything. The video footage, the screenshots, the location pings. I put it all on a flash drive. Then two more. One in my toolbox at work, another in the glove box of my car. Just in case. Next, I reached out to a lawyer. Quietly. I didn't mention names, didn't make accusations. Just told him I was considering separation and wanted to understand my options. Community property, division of assets, the whole thing. He didn't ask many questions. Just gave me the facts. And then he gave me advice. Don't tip your hand. Not until I was ready to make a move. That became my mantra. I started preparing financially. Quiet changes. Updated the passwords on my personal accounts. Opened a separate checking account in my name only. I didn't drain anything yet, but I made sure I could if I had to. And every day, I played the part. The devoted husband. The trusting brother. The guy who smiled at dinner and asked how their day was. Because here's the thing, if they felt safe, they'd get sloppy. And I was counting on it. The only person I told? My buddy Mike from work. Trusted guy, been through a divorce himself. I didn't give him all the details, just enough. I needed someone to know, in case things blew up unexpectedly. And in the middle of all that planning, I kept coming back to one question. What's my endgame? Did I want revenge? A clean break? Just the truth out in the open so I could finally breathe? I wasn't sure yet, but I knew one thing for sure. The people who betrayed me were still sleeping soundly, thinking they had the upper hand. And I was going to be the one to flip the table. It happened on a Sunday. Not planned, not dramatic. Just time. You know that moment when you've prepared all you can, but your gut tells you it's time to pull the pin? That was me, standing in the kitchen, flipping pancakes like a sitcom dad while she scrolled through her phone, pretending everything was fine. And maybe that was the final push, the normalcy of it. The way she could sit there in my house, wearing my t-shirt, knowing she was lying straight to my face and still asking if we had syrup left. I looked at her and realized, I'm done pretending. So I asked her a question. Casual. Almost friendly. Something like, hey, when was the last time you saw my brother? She hesitated. Just a split second. But I saw it, that little flicker of panic. And then came the lie. Oh, not for a while. He's been busy, right? I smiled. Calm. Measured. Just nodded. Then I pulled the flash drive from my pocket, laid it on the counter between us like a dealer dropping a winning hand. Her eyes flicked to it. Then to me. Still, she didn't say anything. I didn't either. I didn't need to. She reached for it, but I slid it away, pocketed it again. Not yet. She'd see it when I decided she would. Not a second sooner. And then I said something simple. I know. Just that. 2 words. Quiet. Heavy. She froze. The blood drained from her face. She opened her mouth like she was going to start weaving some news story, some excuse, some emotional detour. But I walked away. That's the part that sticks with me. Not the confrontation itself, but how little I had to say. I didn't yell. Didn't accuse. I just let the silence speak for itself. Later that night, I packed a bag. Not all my stuff, just enough. Left my wedding ring on the nightstand. She sat on the edge of the bed when I walked out. Didn't ask where I was going. Didn't try to stop me. Because she knew. I think part of her had been waiting for this moment too, the part where the truth stopped hiding. I didn't rush to see him. Took my time. I wanted it to be on my terms, not some heat-of-the-moment showdown, not some cliché shouting match in a driveway. I waited until the timing was right. He was at his place. Alone. I knew because I've been watching. Not in a creepy way, just quietly keeping track. Patterns, routines, same as I'd done with her. I knocked once. Not hard. Just enough. He opened the door like he was expecting someone else, and the look on his face when he saw me? That was worth every second I'd spent collecting proof. He froze, half-smile hanging there awkward, like it didn't get the memo that the world had just shifted. I didn't hit him. Didn't raise my voice. Just walked in, sat on the couch like I used to when we were kids, crashing after long bike rides or video games that went way too late. He stood there, not sure what to do. So I made it simple. I told him I knew. Told him I didn't need an explanation, because there wasn't one good enough to cover this kind of betrayal. I didn't want his version, or his guilt, or some half-baked apology he'd practiced in the mirror. I just wanted him to hear it from me, that I knew what he did, and who he did it with, and that we were done. Not just as brothers. As anything. I think he expected anger. A punch. Maybe even a meltdown. But all I gave him was silence. And that silence hit harder than anything I could have said. I stood, walked past him, and paused at the door. Then I said something I hadn't planned on. Not for him, really. More for me. You burned the bridge. Make sure it was worth it. I left without waiting for a response. I didn't need one. It's quiet now. Not the kind of quiet that stings. More like a space that finally stopped echoing with lies. My stuff's in a small apartment on the other side of town. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, squeaky floors. The kind of place you land when you're starting over at a point in life where you thought you were already settled. But it's mine. No shadows in the corners. No faked smiles waiting at the kitchen table. I still think about it sometimes. Not in a tortured, can't let go kind of way, just flashes. The receipt under the couch. The voices in the vent. Her laugh in the kitchen. His shoes by the door. It's amazing how fast your life can go from familiar to foreign. Some mornings I wake up and wonder if I made it all up. If maybe I overreacted. If I should have fought harder, confronted sooner, tried to fix what cracked. But then I remember, it wasn't a crack. It was a collapse. And I wasn't the one who kicked it down. You don't accidentally betray someone. You choose it. Piece by piece. They did. And I chose to walk away. It still stings, don't get me wrong. You don't invest years into someone, build a life with them, share 1,000 small inside jokes and late-night grocery runs, only to shrug when it all goes up in smoke. But here's the part that surprised me. I'm not bitter. I'm tired. I'm disappointed. I'm rebuilding. But I'm not bitter. Maybe that's the last thing I have that they couldn't take from me. My ability to start again without poisoning everything that comes after. I don't know what happens next. I haven't filed anything yet. Still sitting with that decision. Divorce is a word that tastes strange in my mouth, even now. But I know where I stand. And I know what I won't tolerate again. As for them, I hope they're happy. I really do. Because they gave up a lot for each other. And so did I. Only difference is, mine was real.